Hello and welcome back everybody. It's Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what the story is about today. Well, in today's story, OP says, I caught my fiancé with my friend just 2 days before our wedding. Wow, let's see how this story unfolds. Also, if you like these stories, please give this video a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel.
For reference, I'm now 31, but this happened in 2014 when I was 26 and my ex-fiancé was 25. We met in college and dated for 3 years prior to our engagement with a wedding date booked by the 4th year. Neither of our parents were well off financially, and she was attending grad school, so the financial responsibility fell on me, which totaled $20,000 that was paid in full 4 days prior to the wedding. Leading up to that bad evening, we had our typical mid-20s relationship issues with bouts of poor communication, excessive drinking on weekends, and an occasional argument over petty BS. Aside from that, we had a great relationship and spent a ton of time together figuring out post-college life and planning for our future. As I said above, the wedding and reception venue cashed my check 4 days before the wedding, and the contract stated this was non-refundable. Over 120 guests were confirmed, a couple dozen from out of state, tuxes and bridesmaids' dresses were fitted and paid, and everything was falling into place.
Now, as you know, we talk about infidelity in this channel, so let's get to the inevitable storm of events that you're all interested in before I keep rambling.
The night in question was a Friday evening in our new apartment that we'd moved into a few weeks prior, and we decided to have about a dozen friends over to pregame and head out to the bars in town. Included in this group of friends was my buddy, whom I've known since kindergarten. We'll call him Ricky. X and I had spent a lot of time with Ricky over the last 3 years, and he was definitely one of her favorite one out of my pals, which is generally awesome when your SO gets along with people in your social circle. The night started at a local lounge that was BYOB, so by the time we left there, a fifth of whiskey and 30 rack of beers were gone and everyone was loaded. The next 3 hours were spent between 2 to 3 bars that resulted in the entire group devolving into a drunken mess. Once the bars closed, most people went home with the exception of myself, X, Ricky, and another couple who came back to our apartment for a nightcap.
Now, once back at OP's place, the other couple lasted only about 20 minutes before calling it a night and making their way home. So, OP was left with his fiancée and Ricky.
Earlier in the night at the bar, I noticed X checking her phone more than usual and simultaneously Ricky checking his phone after she would lock the screen. I almost put 2 and 2 together, but why would I worry about them planning anything deceitful just 2 days before I was supposed to marry this girl, right? Back at my house, I was fairly sober and noticed all the drinks were gone, so I was contemplating picking up a couple of 6-packs from a local spot that stays open until 3 a.m. X and Ricky were definitely drunk, so there was no reason to suspect anything sketchy would occur if I ran out for 20 minutes. Once in my car and preparing to exit my apartment complex, I got a sinking feeling in my gut that something wasn't right, and it made me suspicious. So I called my best bud, and he agreed to be picked up and join me on the beer run and accompany me back to the apartment. After grabbing some beers and returning home, we walked up to the sliding glass door that led to my living room that had a sectional to the immediate right. We opened the door, took 2 steps inside the apartment, and my ex-fiancé was mounted on Mr. Ricky. The amazing part of the situation was neither of them appeared to notice that my buddy and I were 10 feet away watching their adventures. After 7 to 10 seconds of attempting to comprehend the current situation, I lost it, dropped the beer, pushed her, and landed 2 hard pounds on Ricky's cheek while he was still lying on his back with the most terrified look on his face. To put things in perspective, I'm 6 feet, 220 pounds, and have played hockey my entire life. He is 5'6", 140 pounds, and a runner. Immediately following this with my fist, Ricky started snoring, didn't know this was a thing, and was asleep for at least 5 minutes while I was losing my mind over the situation.
Without thinking, OP called her parents about 10 times until they woke up and asked them to come and pick their daughter up immediately.
Their house was only 5 minutes down the road, so they walked in shortly thereafter while I was laying into X about her unforgivable, disgusting decision. Her parents frantically walked in to me screaming at X, Ricky passed out on the couch, and my buddy mediating the situation. The first thing I told everyone was the wedding was definitely off. I demanded the ring back and said I'd rather lose $20,000 than spend the rest of my life with a cheater. Her parents spent the next 20 minutes attempting to talk me out of it and occasionally defending X's actions, saying things like, "Why can't you forgive her?" or "Isn't it too late to cancel the wedding?" Meanwhile, Ricky woke up with a swollen face and his left eye was completely shut. Chasing him out of the apartment was tough because he was too drunk to drive, so I called his brother that was 20 minutes away and spent that time laying into X, Ricky, and her parents. Surprisingly, I was able to stay level-headed enough to express my thoughts in such an angry state. The few times I've been this upset in the past, my brain felt like it was off and I had a hard time condensing and forming my thoughts into logical statements. Not this time. By the time Ricky's brother picked him up and Barb's parents shuttled her home, I had systematically picked apart any objection, opinion, or plea for reconsideration expressed by everyone in the room. It felt really great.
Well, OP's not going to pretend the following months were easy and everything worked out in his favor. It did not.
2 months later, the pharma company I worked at decided to lay off my entire division. I had racked up thousands in credit card debt to pay for the wedding, unemployment haunted me for 5 months, and I was diagnosed with major depression. Life was messed up for a few years, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But now that I'm 31, things have settled down, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you for letting me get this off my chest. Edit 1. I received no compensation from her family to cover any wedding expenses, but they aren't exactly well off, so I wasn't expecting anything at all. The engagement ring was a tough one because, although I paid about $1,700 for it a year prior, X managed to beat the ever-living jack out of it during that time. The ring looked out of shape, and she managed to crack the smaller diamond on the left and scratch up the white gold on the outside. I took it to 4 to 5 different jewelers for an appraisal, and the best offer I received was $100. So I just accepted it and used that money to buy tickets to see the Black Dahlia in Philly. Worth it.
Well, life circumstances improved drastically as well for OP. Though it's been a bumpy ride, still he's cruising along.
My best man and groomsman pointed this idea the next day, but I had already cancelled and publicly shamed my ex-fiancé and Ricky on social media and called people set to fly in so they could cancel the travel plans. I did, however, strongly consider going solo on honeymoon cruise that was paid in full. Didn't happen, though. I just took the week off to stay at home and recover from the whole mess. The only red flag I saw previously happened about 6 months prior to the wedding, and, in hindsight, I should have walked away instead of waiting. We were all out at the bars, sitting around a large table drinking pitchers and chatting. I was on the opposite side of the table from X and Ricky, who were sitting next to each other, but that was no big deal. I was hanging out with other friends. During the course of the night, I noticed some suspicious things like secluding themselves from the group conversation, paying me no attention, talking secretively to each other at close range, etc.
After the bars are closed, OP drove his fiancée back to her parents' house and said good night, but he felt like something was off all night. So he went to Wawa and got some food and circled back to the apartment complex to play private investigator.
I dropped her off around 2:15 a.m., and around 3:05 a.m., I see the unmistakable 2004 Audi S4 with electric blue paint and black wheels making its way towards her apartment. Ricky parks out front and waits. Meanwhile, I'm about 100 feet away to his left, having heart palpitations, and a minute later, out walks Barb in a new outfit and happily strolling to his car. That's when I threw it in reverse, switched on my high beams, and floored it directly towards Ricky's driver's side door to announce my presence. Neither of them knew how to react, obviously, but their excuse was that they both just needed someone to talk to, and I have nothing to worry about. Well, that didn't go over well. Ricky was told to go back to his mom's basement, and I decided to sleep over at Barb's to ensure he didn't show up again. It took a few weeks to reconcile with Ricky, but they both assured me over and over that I had nothing to worry about going forward. Well, apparently I did, you idiots. Edit 2. She apologized for a couple weeks, but I cut her off after I found someone to sublet our apartment about a month after the incident. The only explanation I received was I was drunk or we were totally blackout. Neither were comforting, so I moved on. She cheated on the next two boyfriends immediately following our relationship, one a week before they were supposed to move to Cali. I know she's dating someone now, but since she's cheated on the last 5 boyfriends, I really feel sorry for the new guy. She lost her core group of friends after they found out she cheated on me, then cheated on the next 3 to 4 boyfriends, dropped out of grad school, still lives with her parents, and makes far less money than I do.
Well, OP found someone a year later whom he dated for the next 4 years, but she wound up being an emotional, verbally offensive workaholic who was severely disliked by his friends and family.
I bailed on that relationship last June and haven't had any desire to re-enter the dating game in the last 10 months. Wasting 8 years with 2 women is an exhausting experience. Happily single, I shall remain. Ricky did not call the cops, partly because he felt horrible about the situation and knew he deserved it. About 2 years ago, he called me and we talked for 2 hours or so. Long story short, he apologized profusely and said he totally understands my reaction and hesitancy to rekindle the friendship. I forgave him, but we don't hang out anymore, and that's my choice.
End of the story. Well, OP, it's too bad you didn't lay a couple of more smacks on Ricky. I wish you could have sued your ex-fiancé to pay back the wedding expenses. There are so many stories in this forum about men taking their cheating SOs back. It's nice to see someone who has a zero tolerance policy for infidelity. Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment and share the video if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.